bit of a one. This is a Unity favorite. Please sing it with us. Heaven Guide Me. Always good just to remember there is direction and guidance available right there all the time. My prayer chaplain Mike phones me and reminds me that once a month, and I am so grateful. Heaven guide me, heaven show me the way, heaven guide me, heaven show me the way when I'm lost and confused. Heaven lead the way when I'm reaching for you. Will you meet me halfway? Heaven guide me. Heaven show me the way. Heaven guide me. Heaven show me the way when I'm lost and confused. Heaven lead the way when I'm reaching for you. Will you meet me halfway? Heaven guide me. Heaven show me the way. Heaven guide me. Heaven show me the way when I'm lost and confused. Heaven lead the way when I'm reaching for you. Will you meet me halfway? Heaven guide me. Heaven show me the way. Heaven guide me. Heaven show me the way. Heaven guide me. Heaven show me the way. Heaven guide me. Heaven show me the way.
Good morning, everybody. Blessed Unity community. It's my pleasure to welcome you this morning to Unity of Vancouver. We are an inclusive spiritual community dedicated to learning from all the world's wisdom traditions, and we warmly welcome all people, all faiths, and all lifestyles. And I do want to take a moment to just say thank you, Chris and Beverly. Beautiful. You know, I said you were a heart-centered duo, and I think in your performance this morning, your two hearts were beating as one. And that's not just a saying, that's actually the science. When you two are playing that song together, because you're thinking and holding the same melodic idea and intention, your heart and even your brain wave frequencies will start entering into a state of coherence, or what is sometimes called entrainment. And thank you so much for sharing that beautiful, heart-centered, heart-entrained song. And that last song, Heaven Guide Me, is definitely one of my favorites. So thank you very, very much. And I also want to say that, Beverly, you mentioned your monthly prayer call from your prayer chaplain. And I know for many of us, it's a special treat for us every month. And we're never really sure exactly when it's going to come because it's not on any kind of a schedule, if you will. But I want to let everybody that's on the line know that this is a service that we have. And if you go to the unityofvancouver.org website and you just send us a message and say, I would like to be on the prayer call list, then one of our highly trained prayer chaplains will call you once a month, and you'll just get this phone call. And if you're not home, they'll leave a prayer on your voicemail. And it's a wonderful practice to just have that moment of prayer, sort of planned, spontaneous. It just sort of infers itself into your moment, and you can take a moment to just stop whatever you're doing and just receive and pray together with the chaplain. So all you need to do in order to do that is simply go to the unityofvancouver.org website and just go to the contact screen and just put in your name and your email and say, please put me on the prayer list. And they'll be happy to call you. So now Please join me in welcoming Reverend Bob.
Good morning, good morning, good morning, my dear friends. Thank you so much for being with us. And thank you for letting us be in service to you. Today, the talk is Science and Metaphysics in Unity. And you must be asking, or maybe you should be asking, how will my awareness of science and metaphysics in unity change my life? Why should I care? Well, science expands my knowledge, and metaphysics is a philosophy that concerns existence and the nature of things that exist. It's the theory of relativity. Some might say that religions are philosophies also. As metaphysics is a philosophy, then aren't religions philosophy too? Because they also have theories of reality. But religion has its basis, and its theories are based on belief, while philosophy, on the other hand, is a critic of belief and of belief systems. So let's be careful about what we believe, because when we believe something, we close our visions. We usually close our visions and close our minds to what else is available. Truth is not ever one thing, is it? It isn't ever one thing. It's a flow of creation. Truth is changing, evolving, and we must evolve with it. Does that mean that we can't have a firm foundation to stand on? Well, we can choose to be anchored in one place in the river of truth. We can just sit there with our anchor down and let truth go around us and say, this is my place. This is my belief. And that's going to get pretty boring after a while. Or we can pull up our anchor and start just flowing and seeing new realities awaken around us. You know, if you think right now, join me in thinking right now of something that you really want to accomplish, to write a book that sells well, or to write a song, or to sing publicly, or to speak publicly, or to build a house, or to build whatever, some dream that you have not yet dared to do. When you think of that and say to yourself, I should go do that, there's a little feeling that comes up inside of you. And that feeling is called self-doubt. And our work here at Unity of Vancouver is to help erase that self-doubt, to replace that self-doubt with another energy that's greater than that. In order to do that, we have to be working through metaphysics. So let's talk about science and physics in meditation, in unity. Then what is science? Science is the study of natural things and events. An example is the subatomic or quantum field is an area of pure science. And how does that compare with metaphysics? As science studies reality, metaphysics studies the nature of reality. Example, the way the subatomic or quantum field works in our lives is metaphysics. And what does the blending of the two, science and metaphysics, mean to me? Together, they reveal the character of the Creator. The work that's been done in the last 20 or 30 years on subatomic reality shows that there scientifically shows, as Planck said, Planck, one of the greatest scientists ever, the father of evolutionary physics, said, finally he said, I've been studying this stuff for years and years and years, and the farther I go, the more I realize there's a great intelligence behind all of this. That's a scientist. This is not a religious guy, that's a scientist. One of the great scientists. And the way we come from spirit over into science is through metaphysics. You know, mystics from time immemorial have stated that we are one with the universe. Now modern science says that we are the universe becoming aware of itself. The phrase from the mystic poet William Blake, this is so cool, to see the world in a grain of sand and heaven in a wildflower. Hold infinity in the palm of your hand and eternity in an hour. That describes us as one with the universe. That's metaphysics. Unity of Vancouver leans heavily on the marriage of science and metaphysics, which for us is spirituality. We define metaphysics as the truth awakening in the core of our consciousness. What seems to be new thought is really just the unveiling of that which has always been. You know, Jesus was a metaphysician. He practiced metaphysics all the time. He created an atmosphere of metaphysical wonders. He was doing what most people would call impossible, and yet he knew he was not alone in being a miracle worker. Do you remember that? He didn't set himself up as the one and only. He commanded his disciples and followers to be like him, to do what he had done. He said, and these are his words, "These works that I have done, you will do, and much more than these." He also said the reason that we fail, the reason that we don't succeed, and here again are his words, because you have so little faith. Truly, I tell you, if you have faith like a grain of mustard seed, you can say to this mountain, move from here to there, and it will move. Nothing will be impossible for you. True metaphysics is the work of miracles. And also it's similar to science in that it does not accept beliefs or opinions or dogmas as truth. Neither metaphysics nor science have heroes or saints. Both study truth as it's unfolding right here, right now. Every great spiritual leader, every one of them, gave us teachings to follow, to fulfill our lives. The 10 Commandments, when Moses came down off the mountain with the 10 Commandments, there was not a commandment that said, either you do these 10 things with your life or you'll go to hell. That's something that got created way, way later in Christianity. Almost all in Christianity. What those 10 Commandments said, if you want to live a full, holy, completely sacred life, follow these commandments. Number 1, I am the Lord thy God. Well, wait a minute, who said that? Did this guy come out of the sky flowing down with his robes and say that to Moses? No, it was the powerful Holy Spirit inspiring him from within, said, I am the Lord thy God. Thou shalt not have strange gods before me. In other words, don't go chasing after something else. I, the one great spirit, the great presence, the great creator of all, am the Lord your God. Don't have any others before me. Now, he gave 9 other commandments, and the idea was if you follow these commandments, your life will be sacred. If you follow these commandments, then you'll be doing what you're supposed to be doing here. And later, Jesus's disciples, one of them said to him, what about the 10 commandments? And he said, I'll give you another command even greater. And that's to love each other and love your neighbor and love God with your whole heart and your whole mind. Love your God, not my God, your God with your whole mind and your whole heart. And this commandment, he said, encompasses all the other commandments. That's metaphysics. You're made of intelligent energy that dwells in this exact place and time only. And you have been here forever and will be here forever. That's metaphysics. That's metaphysics. Metaphysics and science are both at home right here at Unity of Vancouver. This is the place where miracles happen. But many of us don't want to be burdened by philosophies or whatever. We either pull up our anchor and go with the flow, or we live in our fantasies and lose touch with here and now. And some of us are trying to figure out which we should do. We really want to have our stuff. Well, then what is it we want? More money? More stuff? If we had those, wouldn't we be carrying our same feelings of discontent and boredom into that new reality and still be no happier? Metaphysical studies have proven that the easiest way to get what we want is to start feeling it, to start feeling the joy of having it right now, to having it in the present, in this moment right now. When our minds wander from the here and now, we're choosing regrets for the past and worry for the future. These are choices we freely make. How about we choose joy? Now that's not a brain-mind choice, that's a heart choice. And that's where the soul of you lives, and also the soul of true metaphysics lives. How about we train ourselves to stay in the here and now as much as possible, and then create abilities that can awaken and go to work.
There's a science to the way we see the world. It can be seen, it can be touched, it can be heard. A mathematical equation, calculated speculation, solid answers to the questions that occur. But break it down, tear it apart, back to the source, back to the spark, to the morning light after the dark. It's a constant revelation of the heart, a constant revelation of the heart. There's a distance to the space that lies between. There are measurements and miles and gasoline. Technological solutions with logical conclusions. There are theories to the mysteries unseen. But break it down, tear it apart, back to the source, back to the spark, to the morning light after the dark. It's a constant revelation of the heart. Life is a constant revelation of the heart. Feel the sun on your face. Let your soul feel the wind. Where there's life, there is love calling from within. There's a science to the way we see the world. It can be seen, it can be touched, it can be heard. A mathematical equation, calculated speculation, solid answers to the questions that occur. Now, take it apart, back to the source, back. Morning light comes after the dark. It's a constant revelation of the heart, a constant revelation of the heart, a constant revelation of the heart.
You know, you might be asking yourself, what's Reverend Bob asking me to do? Like the beautiful song that Beverly and Chris just did, the constant revelation of the heart. What I'm asking for you, and I'm also doing it with myself, is to follow the heart. This brain, this is a magnificent organ. I am just blown away by how amazing it is. It is, I could talk about it for hours, but it's a computer. There's no feeling up here. There's no metaphysical feeling up here. The feeling is in your heart, and the heart communicates with the brain more than the brain communicates with the heart. So I'm talking about, what do we do then? How do we follow a metaphysical path? It's really not hard. It really isn't. Just follow your heart. And the two things that pull from the heart, the two goals that reach out from the heart, one is love and the other is joy. Joseph Campbell said, follow your bliss. Your bliss is your joy. If you follow your joy and do it with love, your life will be magnificent and you'll become a miracle worker. You know, when I began my spiritual journey in earnest, I was an aggressive guy. I was a fighter who was always sizing up other guys to see what it would take to beat them in a fight. I could never break myself from that. And if I saw a big guy with broad shoulders and big muscles, and then I had to really work in my mind, what am I going to have to do? My first metaphysical teacher saw that attitude in me. And he said to me very lovingly, Bob, your wars are over. I'll never forget how deeply those words touched me. It took me a few years to finally deprogram my tough guy identity, but the work I did placed me squarely on the metaphysical path where I began to wake up and grow. And a lot of us are in other paths, whether it's I gotta make more money, or I gotta be in competition with this person, or I've got to be more beautiful or more handsome or whatever. Those are all just like my tough guy identities. And they're all false. They're all false. If we want to master our lives, we must get in control of our self-limiting beliefs, because if we want to create good in our lives, we can only do it from good. If our minds are not focused on the good of each other, but rather on the darkness or what darkness might prevail, then we'll undoubtedly create that darkness. That's common sense. Here's a story of good people creating good. I love this story, and you may have heard it before. If so, I think you'll enjoy hearing it again. In a little town in December, a severe storm whipped through the valley and hammered a little church. A huge chunk of rain-soaked plaster fell out of the wall behind the altar. With great sorrow, the pastor and his wife saw that they couldn't hide the hole. It was just a big ragged hole. His wife started crying and said, "Oh my God, Christmas is only a few days away." That afternoon, the couple happened on an auction, where the auctioneer was opening a box and shook out a handsome gold and ivory lace tablecloth. It was a magnificent item, nearly 15 feet long, but it was dated from a long gone era. There were a few half-hearted bids. Then the pastor got an idea, and you know what the idea was. So he bid on it, and he got it for $6.50. Now, please remember, we're talking about metaphysics here, the invisible reality around us that's forming our lives. If we lean into it and allow our lives to be formed by it, or we can lean out of it and try to form our lives with our egos, our choice. The pastor carried the cloth back to the church and tacked it up on the wall behind the altar, and it completely hid the hole. And its shimmering beauty cast a glow over everything. Now that was Christmas Eve. I mean, it was before Christmas when he did this, but on Christmas Eve morning, as he went to open the church, he noticed a woman standing at a cold bus stop. And he called over to her and said, "Hey, the bus isn't going to be here for another 40 minutes. Why don't you come on into the church and get warm?" So she came on over and walked into the church with him. And she told him she'd come from the city, which was a good ways away, that morning to be interviewed for a job as a governess. But she'd been turned down because she was a war refugee and her English was pretty imperfect. The woman sat down in a pew where she rested and prayed. And after a while, she looked up to see the pastor adjusting the gold and ivory cloth across the hole. She rose and walked up to him and looked closely at the tablecloth. The pastor started to tell her about the storm damage, but she didn't hear him. She took a fold of the cloth and rubbed it between her fingers. "This is mine," she whispered. "This is my banquet cloth." She lifted up a corner and showed the surprised pastor that there were initials monogrammed into it. "My husband had this cloth made specially for me in Brussels. There could not be another like it." She explained that she and her husband had opposed the Nazis and had to flee their home in Vienna. They were advised to go separately, so her husband put her on a train for Switzerland. She never saw him again. She later heard that he died in a concentration camp. "I've always felt that it was my fault," she said, "to leave without him. Perhaps these years of wandering have been my punishment." The pastor tried to comfort her and urged her to take the cloth with her, but she refused and she just went away. So later that evening, Christmas Eve, the church filled for the Christmas Eve service, and the cloth was a great success. It looked even more beautiful in candlelight. After the service, the pastor saw a gentle-faced man who was the local clock repairman standing before the cloth looking puzzled. "It's strange," he said in his soft accent. "Many years ago, my wife, God rest her soul, and I owned such a cloth in our home in Vienna." The pastor called the family that had interviewed the woman for the job of governess and got her address in the distant city. Then he put the man in the car and headed to the city. They found the woman. I don't know the story of when they saw each other, but I can imagine it. I can surely imagine the two of them seeing their loves of their life alive. So as Christmas Day was born, the man and his wife, who'd been separated for so many years, both thinking the other one dead, were reunited. So what really happened here? Let's just put it in order. A storm came and knocked a hole in the wall over the altar, visited itself right on that church. The pastor happened to go to an auction where he got an idea to use an old tablecloth to cover the hole. Then a woman shivering at a bus stop caught his attention, and he brought her in to get warm. She recognized the cloth. And she talked to him about it, and then she went her way. That night after the service, a clock repairman came to Christmas Eve, who had come to the Christmas Eve service, went up and looked at the tablecloth and said he remembered it. Of course, it was a series of miracles. That's metaphysics. There are equally great stories of scientific miracles, putting a rover on Mars, having a station out in space where people can actually live. When we bring the two, spirituality and science, together, we get the best of both worlds. Science brings measurement, and metaphysics brings meaning. Science enlightens our mind, and spirituality awakens our hearts. Without grounding of good science, spirituality can easily turn into blind faith, to dogmatism and fundamentalism. Isaac Newton said that religion has never conflicted with science, but that dogmatism is and has always been the enemy of both science and spirituality. Dogmatic-minded people think they have the truth and that everybody else has to be converted to their truth. They say they have God. No one else has God. When neuropsychiatrist Monty Bushbaum was asked how schizophrenia differs from religious fanaticism, he replied that schizophrenics have solitary delusions while fanatics all share the same delusion. So let's not be dogmatic, either about our religion or about science. Let's strive to be open to fresh realizations. Let's strive to not even believe Reverend Bob. Keep our mind open and see if this rings a bell of truth in me, then I'll follow that. But I'm not just going to follow it because some important person says it or because I read it somewhere. We need to stop believing our thinking and start looking for new truths, to pull up our anchor in the river of truth and head for the great sea. At Unity of Vancouver, we practice common sense spirituality. We're following the discoveries of both science and metaphysics, with classes from books by Deepak Chopra and Bruce Lipton, and Joe Dispenza, and Greg Braden, and others. But we never forget that there's only one power in this universe and one intelligence. And that power and intelligence is love. Today, wherever you are and whoever you are, please know I am right now loving you.
Thank you, Bob. That was beautiful. I'm gonna let it be the field, the one that rain forgot. I'm gonna let it be the summer. I'm gonna let it be your face, the one that ran away. I'm gonna let it be forever. I'm gonna let it rain and hail. Gonna let the rusty nail no longer hold this world together. I'm gonna let it be the sun in more ways than one. Shine a different way tomorrow. Shine a different way tomorrow. I'm gonna let it be the moon, let it play its tune, the one that keeps repeating. I'm gonna let it be your will, let it have its thrill, if that's what you are needing. I'm gonna let it start again, let it chase the wind, with my arms stretched out before me. I'm gonna let it look at me as I lay sleeping in the night and love me like a baby. I'm gonna let it be the sun in more ways than one, run out of its horizon. I'm gonna let it be the night, for I have had my day, dancing at the back door. I'm gonna let it hear my prayer, no matter who is there, no matter who is listening. I'm gonna let the dream tell me what it is always known. The moonlight and the glistening. The moonlight and the glistening. The moonlight and the glistening waves.
Oh my God, I love you too. I love you too. You are so amazing. Thank you, thank you, thank you. That's metaphysics, folks. That's spirituality. That's the thing about spirituality, about metaphysics, is that it's very difficult to put into words. It's very difficult to talk about. But if you hear it in music, you feel something moving inside of you, and that's true spirituality. That's art. That's why art is so important. That's why you people who are running schools, stop defunding art classes and music classes, because it's vital to us as human beings.
Now, as the sign says, our Q&A starts now.
Randy, can I just say something before we start that? I want those of you who are watching to know that we won't always be doing this only online. We're going to open physically on September 12th. And you really want to keep that date in mind, because Beverly, who is our music director, and I will be talking later today, and we're putting together an opening jamboree that's going to be amazing. So you'll just want to really make sure you do that. And we could open earlier than that, but we don't want to rush it. We don't want to, there's other variances of this pandemic going around. And yeah, it's maybe not as serious, but still for some of our older people in the congregation, it could be very serious. So we're just, out of love, we're playing it safe. So we're going to open on September 12th with a bang. Be there or be square. Thank you.
Yes, Reverend Bob, thank you for sharing about the reopening, and we're glad everybody's still online, knowing September 12th is going to be a big celebration. We're going to have like full musical complement and everything else. Now, to our questions and answers. Bob, I'm going to start with, it was a lovely story that was the centerpiece of our talk this morning, but it prompted this question from one of our members. Why did they have to experience so much pain?
We live in a family here on planet Earth. And when one of us cuts, all of us bleed. When one of us hurts, all of us hurt. There's a saying that when a butterfly flutters its wings on one side of the globe, a hurricane occurs on the other side of the globe. The message is there is no separation. When Hitler, through his misguided insanity, and his henchmen did what they did, they set forward a motion that other people who could have stopped it wouldn't stop it or didn't stop it. Remember, if you think good and you focus on good, you create good. But you have to be looking for love and joy in those two items together. Hitler wasn't doing that. Goering wasn't doing that. None of those people were doing that. And they caused a disruption in the world. And thousands and thousands and thousands of people supported that craziness. And so it radiated out throughout the world. There had to be a recompense for that. There had to be a way to come back. There had to be a way to come back to being at one. It's called at-one-ment or atonement. A storm came and knocked a piece of plaster off the wall. Seems like, oh, well, that's just what happens. But what happened from that storm was miraculous, and it brought things back together. That's why you and I have to be really, really careful about where our minds go. We cannot afford to be vengeful or even regretful of our past. We must be focused on being right here, right now, and loving and joyful. And if it's a hard thing to do, then that means we have to train ourselves. But we must do that because we're sending out energy to the world around us. That was a really good question. Thank you.
It was a good question. The next question, the story itself is replete with many synchronicities. And I guess the question really is, I know everybody in the audience is working on elevating their consciousness. Can you speak, Reverend Bob, to the role that becoming more alert to synchronicity plays in realizing and ascending in consciousness?
I can. Let's look at this pastor. I don't know what he was. Obviously, he wasn't Catholic because he was married. That means he could have been Lutheran. He could have been any number of religions. But what we know about him is that he was in spirit, and he was following his life in spirit. And when that pastor got knocked out of the center of his church, he was looking for solution. He wasn't looking to further the problem. He was guided to that auction. And when he saw that tablecloth, his mind opened immediately to that. And then he saw the woman at the bus stop. So the message here for us is this: look for synchronicities. When you see a synchronicity, you think of James, and then the phone rings and you pick it up and it's James. Don't just dismiss that. That wasn't just a coincidence. That's spirit. That's metaphysics. The more you pay attention to that, and the more you follow that, the more often it will happen for you. And you will find yourself being able to broadcast that forward, to create it from where you are, to actually begin to create those synchronicities that we can also call miracles. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Wonderful. And you made a statement during the talk about deprogramming your identity. And so the question is, how do we deprogram our identity, and what is the first step?
First step number one, what's my identity? In my seminars, we have a process where two people sit face to face, facing each other, eye contact, cannot look away. And person number one asks person number two, who are you? And person number two answers. Pretty easy answer. Who are you? I'm Bob. Who are you? Because they keep asking the questions. Who are you? I'm Bob Trask. Who are you? I'm Robert Riley Chauncey Trask. Who are you? I'm a minister. Who are you? I'm an author. Who are you? I'm a sea captain. Who are you? I'm a free diver. Who are you? Well, after a while, I run out of answers. What I run out of are these false identities. These are not who I am. These are titles. So you have to ask yourself, who am I? And let the answer come forward. And I promise you it will be a title. And after you get past all the titles and you say, who am I? You must say, I don't know, because this doesn't know who you are. The brain doesn't know who you are. The heart knows who you are. And there isn't a verbal answer for that. You are God. You are Holy Spirit incarnation. You are the one. There is no other Holy Spirit than you. Each of us are incarnations of that one great heart, that one great mind. And as such, we are all one being in separate incarnations. So the way I deprogram or reprogram myself is by saying affirmations. I am a good and worthy person. I am right here, right now. Not saying I am Bob or I am Reverend Bob but saying that which is true of me. I am a good and worthy person. I am following my heart. Always my affirmations start with I am, because that's my identity. I am following my heart. I am pure love. I am pure love. Well, you may have to say that about 1,000 times before you actually believe it. But what else are you going to be doing for those moments and hours and days if not saying that? So what if you said it 1,000 times and then believed it? I'm pure love. How would your life change? Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Thank you, Bob. So the next question, you just mentioned the word heart. The next question is, what is the best way to cultivate and integrate both the head and the heart?
Thank you. Excellent question, because the head is so important. And I don't ever want anyone to think I'm saying, don't use your head, don't use your brain. It's so important. It's what guides us through this temporal life. It's what keeps us safe, keeps us fed, keeps a roof over our heads. That brain is so important, so important. But it's not who you are. It's a tool, it's not who you are. Therefore, use the brain for calculating, for figuring things out. Use the heart for knowing who you are, for knowing the truth of life. Remember, the heart is sending more messages to the brain than the brain is sending to the heart. So let your heart be sending messages to the brain of love. Whatever the brain says, let's just do this. The heart says, let's do it with love. And if we can't do it with love, let's not do it. So separating the brain, mind from the heart, mind takes time and it takes practice. But if you get a little innocent baby, a little baby, and you put that baby up to your chest, and the little baby snuggles its little face up against your neck, what happens inside of you? What happens? That incredible feeling that goes in through you is love. You need to be able to feel that from your heart without having to have the baby at your neck. And let your heart guide you. Focus on that feeling and let it guide you, and let it guide your mind. Thank you, thank you.
Okay, and our final question comes from Tammy. She said, I think, in essence, I actually don't have the message here, but I'm paraphrasing. Can you provide some recommendations of books with proof of science and metaphysics merging with spirituality?
Yes, I can. Read Joe Dispenza's book, You Are the Placebo. You are the placebo. That's number one. That should be your first shot.
Mm-hmm.
And then there are a number of other books by Greg Braden. I won't tell you the names of these books because they're all great. Greg Braden and Bruce Lipton. Dr. Joe Dispenza has a series of books. We just finished a class on with one of Joe Dispenza's greatest books. So, and we have classes going on. Right now we have a Wednesday evening class going on the Divine Matrix by Greg Braden. And that's one of the most powerful scientific proofs of metaphysics. Come and join our class on Wednesday night at 7:00. It's only an hour and a half. It's a beautiful class.
Yeah,
thank you.
Yeah. And I was thinking as we were waiting for the talk to end about books, and of course I wrote down Dispenza and Braden. Then I was thinking, who else is there? Who else is there that I would recommend for a primer on science and spirituality, science and metaphysics? And it was funny how it came to me, and because it's all a list of men that is there, and then boom, it pops into my head. Lynn McTaggart's work with the book The Field The Bond, and The Intention Experiment are three phenomenal evidence-based books on science and spirituality and metaphysics. And so I would certainly recommend that to anybody that really wants to get into the proof, because she cites all the studies very, very carefully. And so that would be a final recommendation on a book, on an author. So Reverend Bob, sorry, did you have something? Yeah. Okay. So also questions. That's it for questions today. And Bob, thanks so much for, as always, the wonderful perspectives shared and taking on the tough questions. Why do bad things happen to good people? That was in essence that question, and it's that's certainly one to put Reverend Bob on the spot. And I think you did a marvelous job of sharing. So thank you so much. Of course, we've got our breakout rooms and prayers with the chaplains in private rooms coming right up. But now let's join Reverend Bob in our prayer for protection.
The light of God surrounds us. The love of God enfolds us. The power of God protects us. And the presence of God watches over us. Wherever God is, we are. And wherever we are, God is. And all is well. And that's the way it is.